Hey, 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 good night, everyone. We are so glad that you're here at Family Soul Evening to listen to Brianna Anderson. She is one of the co-creators of Being on Fire, and she's one of my favorite people and closest friends. And of the many things, she's got a lot of skills, a background in corporate sales and management. She used to boss people around
Still
and
do.
for a living, and we've recruited her into our woo-woo world in the last few years. And in doing so, I'm going to mute everyone. So, Brianna, unmute yourself. But as she has done more expansion in spirituality and consciousness, her many of her gifts have just erupted. Her ability to really tap in, check in with herself, and as I call it, go inward and upward, but she connects to the divine. And so as she jumped into studying gene keys and human design, she's gone deep with it. She's gone so deep. In fact, we'll make sure and have her tell us all about the course and the videos that you've created, the tutorials at the end of tonight, okay?
For sure.
So I have personally really benefited from working with Brianna. I've learned about and sat with many facilitators on human design, but I'm going to tell you that of the ones I've found, Brianna has a gift for telling you what you need to know and what you're really looking for. And she could talk to you for hours about all the other stuff that you're not ready to digest. But I've had to take it in bits and pieces and sit down with her one-on-one to help me understand me, and then me and my partner Eric and I, she gave us some pieces that have been breakthroughs in our relationship that continue. We were just having a conversation a few moments ago about how easy it is to be in a partnership and relationship because we understand each other with a sacred eye. That alone, like my whole existence, I was trying to create a celestial marriage. I tried for 16 years and that one went down the toilet. So I'm on round two and it's going really well. And a big part of that is human design gives us a lens to see that every person is divinely designed. Even when we're operating in what's called the shadow side of us, it's there for a reason and a purpose. And when I can see that, because I can understand someone else's design, having had their chart explained to me these concepts, then I can be like, ooh, guess what this is preparatory for? And if I can stay in my unconditional love and in my truth seeker energy, my goddess energy, then I can help support. I'm not saying fix or control, but I can help support a space where I just poke at that shadow piece, or I actually give light and love to it, and it can help flip that switch where someone can then embrace the other side of themselves. And it's so powerful. And so tonight we get to throw at her your profiles and watch her. And I'm so excited to have her do that. So I'll turn the time over to Bree. And thank you so much, Bree, for being here and for all that you are. I love you.
I love you, Matt. Thank you.
Yep.
I'm really excited. There's a good 14, 15 of us because that means time for intimacy and really deep learning with information that's applicable to you. So I'm really passionate about tonight because we're going to talk about, I'm going to share my screen and make sure you actually see that. We're going to talk about what blocks your creation. And even deeper, we're going to talk about what blocks maybe sexuality and where you feel stunted in how you attract the things that you want. Can you see my screen okay? Is it showing you a presentation? Yeah, cool. Okay, so let me go back. So this is the number that I actually want you guys to look at when you're looking at your gene keys. So for the sake of someone watching this later, you will go to genekeys.com, free profile. And by doing that, it will pull up or ask for your birth time, your birth location, and your birth date. Okay, so that's where this information is coming from. When you log in and enter that information, you're going to get this at the very bottom, this diagram. And for those that have never been exposed to gene keys, I want to preface that this is your genetic makeup. These are your greatest, greatest gifts. So when Angel says that I have really been able to expand in what was already there, it was literally because of this information right here. because I didn't just look at it and run, to the next thing. I have embodied it. And that's my intention for you guys, is that after this call, you'll be so fired up and passionate about who the hell you are and know that your creation process is very specific to you, right? Do I have some artists in here? Or if I say, hey, are you a creator? Who relates to that word? I know there's a lot of you guys. That's why you're here. Okay, so this is the number I'm asking you to put in the chat where there's an arrow. It says attraction sphere. And it will say different numbers with lines. So Angel doesn't know this, but for today's call, I actually picked her gene keys. So 63.5 is Angel. I love that. So the reason that this is so, so important and the reason we're starting here is because for the last couple of weeks, we've been talking about sex. So raise your hands or put in the comments if you love talking about that. Okay, so here's what's really cool. Attraction means a lot of different things. So first I have to give you the digestible part of what attraction means. And then we can go into the different lines, okay? The attraction sphere, if I go to the next place, I'm just gonna go right deep. And if you have questions, please put them in the chart and then we'll be interactive. There's just a little bit of teaching in this for it to really transform your life. So the lines of the attraction sphere, they run really, really deep. That's because a lot of this number is unconscious to you. Meaning, if I talk to you about this gene key, you might be like, yeah, sure, okay. I feel that way, but I don't necessarily resonate with it all of the way, meaning it's unconscious. Okay, we're not always aware of this part of us. So your attraction sphere is your unconscious moon. You might have heard of your moon from astrology. If that doesn't mean anything to you, trust that what you need to know tonight will come. So your unconscious moon, for those who do know, that's actually your needs. So you've heard people say, well, sex is a biological need, or attraction and connections is a biological need. This is one of the deepest places in your entire hologenetic profile that you could possibly extract a need from. So I want you to make an intention right now before we go further. I want you to set an intention with either your needs, discovering what those are more deeply. For some of you, that might be wanting to know what your sexual block is directly to sex. And for some of you, that might be a direct connection to the literal word attraction. You guys have heard of law of attraction, right? Like law of attraction, da 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 da. Guess what? There are very specific mechanics in your chart, in your DNA, that show how you will attract what you need, not what you want, what you need. And we'll go into that. So set an intention so that we can really have a shift when I look at your charts. So this is unconscious, but your body is aware. So I want you guys to pay attention that this is the part that is, life is going to bring you what you need so that you can be the best version of you, even if relationships feel challenging AF. So I want to ask a vulnerable question. So I'm not talking at you. How many of you guys have struggled with relationships? Like genuinely before, whether it's past, present, or, future with beliefs. So this attraction sphere is actually the number one reason why we start to feel like relationships are hard if we're in our shadow. So like Angel said, shadow just means it's like a learned behavior. It's a part of us that doesn't like being poked, but it needs to be poked, like she said. It needs to be poked so that we can shift from the bullshit to the like expansive wings, right? We want to go and fly, but in order to get there, we have to let go of what we're used to. So I'm curious, as you contemplate the gene keys of this sphere, I want you to notice if you can find any like patterns that show up with you. As I go through the different lines, I don't want you to focus on what's wrong with you because you're already really good at that. I want you to focus on why you're badass and why that's been something you can or have leveraged in the past. Does that make sense? You guys with me? Okay. So if I were to invite you to look at your shadow side, I want you guys to notice that it's not necessarily the part of you that's thinking about this. Again, I'll say it again. This is not the part of you that is thinking. This is the part of you that is feeling. So if I said to so-and-so, hey, I noticed that this is a deep need, you'd be like, oh, how did you know that? Like you feel it, but you don't necessarily think about it. So when we know this, then we can leverage your specific strategy on things like the law of attraction, but mostly getting past the blocks that we have to sex and creation. So before I tell you what your numbers are, I think it'd be really magical for each of you to put in the chat what you feel like is blocking you from having a more dreamy life with what you're trying to attract. I want you to like literally contemplate what you think your block is when it comes to creation. And I also want a second block, which is directly just to sex. Because you'll notice as we go through this training or tonight's education, that creation energy and sexual energy are the same energy. One gets manifest through this route and the other comes into physical form. Can you guys see that? How are creations birthed literally from the beginning of time? Through sex, baby. So I want you guys to go ahead and write down those blocks, okay? So for example, a block might be, I think sex is bad. A block might be, I think that my creations are not as good as what the world wants them to be. A block might be, I just don't have time and I'm not really in the mood for it, or I don't even feel creative, so like whatever. I want you guys to pay attention to what your blocks might be. And then I want you guys to be able to contemplate at the end of this recording how we're going to use that information I give you to leverage it for your benefit. Okay. Does anyone have questions so far? I'm actually not looking at the chat, Angel, so if you want to chime in anytime, totally
Yep,
feel
I'll
free.
watch what they're saying in there. Awesome, Bree.
Don't want to let it out, numb, fantasy, yep, financial instability and not in love with my body, physical health, not trusting myself, blocks, limiting beliefs, yep, physical health, not trusting myself, fear, PTSD, and then not enough time for it, right? Overthinking, yep, ego, mind, physical health. Can you guys kind of relate to everything like everyone is saying? It's like me too. It's kind of that me too, like me too, and depending on what day. So this is amazing. Oh, okay, we're gonna go to the next slide. If it will let me, perhaps. Let's try that. Okay, so these are the lines. We're gonna start with lines before we go into gene keys. So the lines, just so we're clear, are these numbers right here. So do you see on this gene keys how Angel's line would be 0.5? Do you guys see that? How on this specific attraction sphere we're talking about tonight, hers is going to be specific to line 5. So all of you are going to learn about yourselves, whether I hot seat you at the end of this or not, just by the lines. Okay, there are only a total of 6 lines. And people always ask me, where do those lines come from? Great question. The first number is from the Gene Keys book by Richard Rudd. It's free on Audible. Go grab it and study it like you've never studied before. Audible Gene Keys book. The number after that is the part of the I Ching. So if you don't know what the I Ching is, it's also esoteric knowledge and they actually overlap to make it really simple so you can digest this. It's your genetic makeup and they're gifts you have. You're just not aware it's a gift. That's why it feels like a curse. So that's where that information is coming from. All we're looking at right now for the sake of this training is your line. Is that cool? Okay, so in the chat, I want you to put if you have a line 1. I want to see how many of you guys have line 1. Ryan, why do I attract chaos? Sex seems to have become meaningless. That seems so foreign to me. This is 40, I guess. Okay, I'm too comfortable. Yeah, so I want, okay, Holly, you're a line 1. Beautiful, that's right. I remember this. Anybody else a line 1? Okay, if you're a line, Anne is also a line 1. Beautiful. I think I'm confused. I don't know where to look. Okay, Jen, so we're going to go back. For all of you that are confused, I'm going to go back to this same page. Look at my screen. It's right here. It's the second red sphere. And it says a number and then point number. So what we're asking you is, what is that decimal? Decimal what? It's 1 through 6. Okay. Who's a line 2 in here? In fact, rather than going through all of them, will you guys put your lines in there so I know you're with me? Spot on. Carrie. Carrie, is that a 1 or a 2? Me, Connie is, so I'm assuming that's a 2. What lines are you guys? 2. Okay. Line 4. Okay, awesome. Kaylee's line 4. Doug, line 6. Beautiful. 1, it says that attraction bubble, right? Yes, correct. Attraction. We're talking about attraction. And what you'll notice in this training by going back is you'll want to digest it over and over and over again because it's responsible for three things, not just one. It's responsible for your sexual block, number one. It's responsible for your attraction blocks, hence relationships, very specific to attraction and relationships. And number three, it's creation in general. And Angel just put in the chat where to find that, okay? So why are we talking about this? We're going to want to leverage what we know. And when I say leverage, we want to be more of who we are. We don't need to learn more behaviors and skills. We need to just know who we are and what we're working with. So let's get into the toolbox. So for line ones, this is really important for you guys to, I'm going to send this to Angel in a recording so you guys have all this information. This will change your partner's life. This will change your kids' life. This will change relationships in general. When you understand that we aren't going to need the same coaches in life, the same books in life, the same strategies in life. Why? Because our law of attraction, literally the law of how we attract, is very specific to us. Therefore, we have very specific gifts. So I invite you not to tune out just because it's not your number. In fact, I invite you into all of the 6 lines to see where you're actually interacting with someone else who has a different sexual block than you do. And that heals relationships, right? So line 1, it's called sterility and fertility. So you're either feeling whole or you're feeling empty. So line 1s, you guys are the ones basically that set the foundation. So it's either going somewhere and it feels like it's fertile or it feels like it's dead. So I want you guys to think about literally like a garden, right? When someone is feeling fertile, what is their behaviors when someone's fertile? Literally. You guys are, I'm totally cool if you want to unmute too. There's only 18 of us, or if you guys want to put in the chat, we can totally roll with it. But what does fertility mean to you guys? For those that have a 1. Holly, I know you did.
Sorry, yeah. Okay. Line 1, a sterility, fertility, meaning like I have all this energy to give and share, and creations are coming out, and lots of things are being birthed.
Yes, absolutely. And I love that because I've seen that in you. So what's really fun is that you can actually look at someone and actually see this within them. So for those that don't know Holly, it's like every time she's around, it feels like there's new seeds being planted in the garden. Like, oh, what are you doing over there? Right? Just so full of life. So when there is a first line profile like Holly and Anne, the first line is basically a bit of a caveman or a cavewoman. It's just an empty experience. It means that when you're sterile, you're still doing the creation, but you're not actually in it. So these are the people that will check the task off, but not be getting like fulfillment from it. How many of you guys can relate to that, even if you're not a 1? You're doing the task and it should make you happy or feel whole, but it's like you just feel empty. You're like, yeah, this ain't going anywhere, right? So if your attractor field is putting that out, you will draw the same thing. So I want you guys to catch what that just said. If Holly's frequency was feeling like everything is mundane or kind of empty and there's no point to the task because she doesn't feel anything, then she's going to attract that into her life because this is the attraction sphere. So why would that be? Because when that happens, there is going to be someone, because this is relationships as well, someone or something that gets her out of that sterility and gets her back into fertility. So a lot of what we attract is for those that are going to help heal our creations. So this is kind of blunt. It says this is like going to a prostitute. It may be an experience, but it's basically a sterile one. Basically, you're going to do the job. It's kind of like obligatory sex. You do it because you have to check the box. But that's just the shadow. That's the learned behavior. That's just a lower frequency. So when I talk about shadows, it's just a frequency. There's no relationship that comes from it, and there's no heart in it. It says, I don't want to judge that either. It is what it is. So let's look from the other side. Let's say you are aligned with your purpose and that your Dharma brings you a relationship that is fertile. By fertility, it can mean lots of things. It can mean babies, it can mean creativity, it can mean enjoyment, connectedness. Even if it isn't forever, you're all in. So for line 1s, here's your mantra, I am all in. Before you do the action or the task, it's the all in energy, okay? So literally, we're not having sex ever again unless we're all in. So literally, again, we're never going to write the Facebook post unless we're all in. Because if we're not all in, it will feel again like prostitute energy where it's I'm giving and I'm putting out and I'm putting out and I'm putting out, but I'm not getting back, I'm not getting back, I'm not getting back. Does that make sense to anyone or everyone? You guys see how that kind of works? We're going to go into the gene keys of what that means because it tells a full story. Right now, I'm only telling a small percentage of that story because the gene key number will influence that heavily. So Holly, do you mind if I coach with you right now? Is that okay to put you in the hot seat as we go along? If you want it.
Yeah, that's good. Thanks.
I'm like, sure, if you want to. What's your gene key number with line 1?
31 for my attractor.
Okay, let's go back. So you guys, for those that don't know what I'm asking her, what I did is I asked her for the full number. So she just told me she is a 31.1. So that means there is a whole story within the story. So she needs to know the expression before she knows the gift. Because if she's in prostitute energy and I come to her and say, Holly, you have this amazing gift. 31 is like this really amazing gift. It doesn't matter what the gift is. The way it's expressing is still really low. Does that make any sense? Do you guys have questions on that so far? Any questions? There was also another one line. Is there anyone, and you were also a one line. What was your gene key?
$16.
Okay, 16. Amazing. So may I also give you some insight and we'll just do it at the same time. Is that cool?
I would love that. Thanks.
Okay. So Holly, you have a beautiful gift of leadership. Okay, 31 is all about leadership. So I'm going to keep it simple. Your leadership is fertile or your leadership is empty. The gift doesn't change. You have a gift of leadership, of vision, of the visionary. That's 31. Those are just a few of the words. You're not going to, quote, feel that way until you first get in the energy of fertility. Does that make sense?
I think so. Could get in the energy of fertility. Say like, I'm off to think on that.
Yeah. So we're going to give it another word because sometimes the words in gene keys get really, I don't know. They're just not the words that I would choose. So I want you to imagine, because you're a sacral authority, I want you to imagine that anything you do behind it has passion, and anything you no longer have passion for, you no longer do. So another way of saying you're sterile is like you don't really feel like there's a point to it. It feels like literally a dead end. So your leadership, you wouldn't choose to lead if you felt like there was no point or you weren't going anywhere.
That makes sense.
But you would choose to lead and choose to be a visionary if you could see all of the plants you were planting and all of the inspiration you were laying down. And you would choose to step into your gift of leadership if you knew it was going somewhere and it kept bringing life to new people. And think that you're this fairy godmother that everywhere you go, you're sprinkling life around everything that was once dead. Now put that in the same energy of leadership. Who wants to follow that leader? When Holly is literally turned on and tuned in, who wouldn't want a charismatic leader who's like, I'm going to put life back into you and it's going to grow. So literally everything when they're in your aura is going to grow. It can't not grow. Does that make sense?
I think so. Yeah.
Okay. So I'm going to be really honest as well with how that shows up in sex. So it's kind of like doing the job because you want it to give back to you. So you're in the low frequency, you're going to desire sex because you want to feel something. Because you feel empty. Okay. These are all line ones, not just Holly, all line ones ever. The other side of that, when you're like really turned on and tuned in and you can feel life giving life back to you, it's a way different energy. And the only reason you want to have sex is to create more life or to find the expression reflected back to you. So it's not just necessarily creating babies, but it is because you are literally birthing life just by having the orgasm. That is the fertility versus the emptiness where I'm doing it because it's obligatory or because I want it to make me feel whole. So if I sum this up for the line ones want sex to feel whole in the shadow frequency. And in the high frequency, It's because you know you have the ability to birth life. Does that feel accurate? Do you relate with any of that, Holly?
Yeah, definitely. There's every once in a while, I'm like, now, because I'm married, I'm like, now if we have sex, then I will feel this connection kind of a thing. And that's not
Yes.
always. And then I'm trying to think of like when it's really good. It sounds a little selfish. I'm thinking when it's like, okay, I have sex and it gives back to me. I'm not used to kind of having like pleasure for pleasure's sake. Like there's a lot of stuff around that, but I feel like that's maybe what you're saying is.
Yes. Yes, that's your breakthrough. You just know that you just came to the awareness on your own. Your breakthrough is to begin with pleasure to receive more pleasure.
I like it.
So we begin with pleasure because it's going to give us back more pleasure, but we don't begin with, I'm dead inside, give me pleasure, because that's sterile.
Mhm.
So it's taking ownership of your pleasure, especially in the attraction sphere for everyone. So everyone write that down. Because what you are attracting will always start with your state first, not what the attraction or the experience gives you. That's why they shouldn't call it the law of attraction, but they do. It should literally be called the law of your emotional state, because your frequency, when you're in leadership, Holly, and you are like, va va vroom, I am magical, then obviously leadership is just a byproduct of who you're already being.
Right.
So your gifts are amplified. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Cool. And then, yeah, and for you, 16 is the gene key. Was that right?
Yes.
Okay, so gene key 16, if I remember correctly, it's indifference. Is that right?
Yes.
And then oh, this is right. Okay, so this is your gift is mastery. You have a natural ability to master every talent that you have. So you're someone who is hyper aware of when you haven't mastered a skill because you're aware it could be even better. You resonate with that?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So that's you're like, I think so.
I think so. I love in the book, it uses the gene key 16. It says magical genius.
Literally magical genius. And you're the enthusiast. So when so I want you to pair these two words together. The enthusiast has energy to master things because they're enthusiast or enthusiastic about what they're mastering.
Mm.
Does that make sense? Like people that don't master shit don't have enthusiasm for what they're mastering. It's why they don't care. Like, I don't care to master baking cookies. I'm not enthusiastic about making cookies. I'm enthusiastic about making or eating them, not making them. So the same thing applies to you. You have a beautiful gift of having enthusiasm for that which you are passionate about. So notice how your enthusiasm might also reflect when you do and do not desire to have sex. So when you're in a state of literal enthusiasm, same thing applies to line 1. So it tells the whole story. I need to slow down because I get really excited and talk fast, and I'm consciously aware. So when you look at your guys' gene keys, I'm going to give you only the lines tonight to show you what the block is. But then you get to go read about the gene keys, and then it tells a full story. Do you guys see how it's a 2-part story? It's not just one. Notice how with the hot coaching or the hot seat coaching, I can tie in the full picture because Anne has gene key 16. So what I'm telling her is that line 1 still applies to Anne, right? It's I think I'm going to get something out of this. And if I don't, I'll just keep giving and giving and giving and giving and giving. And I feel empty by the end of the day. Or it's the opposite energy, which is I'm going to fill myself up. I'm going to feel wholesome with all that is. And when feel wholesome and I don't feel empty, then I am consciously mastering things I am enthusiastic about. So the full story for you, Anne, the way I see this in my lens is that you are mastering things right now, possibly if you're in your shadow. You're choosing to master things that don't necessarily bring you enthusiasm. And if that's not true, then it just means that you're not in your shadow and that when you're mastering things, it's going to continue to bring even more wholesome or more fertility feelings to you. It'll feel like, oh my gosh, the more I master this, the more creation energy I have, etc., etc. Do you relate to your shadow or do you relate more to the light?
Oh, there's a little bit of both there, Brianna.
I love that. It's an awareness, which is cool. Sometimes
Yeah.
people are like, I don't relate. Again, because I can't say it enough. This is our unconscious moon. So in other words, this is the part of us that has a deep need, but isn't always thinking about it. So you're not waking up every day thinking, I need to master my enthusiastic energy. But your heart, the way you feel every day you wake up is that you need to get even better at mastering the passion or mastering the thing. Do you see how that plays out too? Because it's your unconscious moon, you guys. And that goes for everybody. Do you have any questions on that, Anne?
This is such great information.
I feel like
No,
the whole world
thank
needs to know
you.
it. You're
Yeah.
so welcome. And here's what's cool. We're only on the attraction sphere because it's light. I mean, they're all great, but we got to start somewhere, right? So just be mindful again, line ones, then we'll get off line one, is that if you are ever doing something because you think it's going to bring you resolvement to feeling empty, your number one task when you wake up, if you want to attract clients in business, if you want to attract the lover of your life, attract more money, attract better friends, whatever you're attracting, be it sex or creations in general. If you want to up level what you are attracting, you've got to start with how you're feeling first. So for line ones, I want you to practice feeling wholesome now. Practice feeling not empty. What does that feel like? Practice feeling fertile. What does that feel like? Because if you can do that in the morning, the gene key that you have with it, whether it's 31 or 16 or any other number, you're going to be like, holy shit, my gifts just happened. And I'm going to say, yeah, of course they just happened. You've been there this whole time. The difference is how you felt about it. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Hey,
Okay,
Bree,
good.
we have Chelsea has like specific questions about line one. Can she
Yes,
ask
will
the
you?
que-
Yes, please.
Okay, hi, sorry.
No, you're good.
So I'm hearing this and I want to see, okay, so I'm trying to make like really like practical, like make it really practical for myself. So I show up on social media a lot and I have two different pages that I manage. And there's one account that I is doing great, but I feel so burnt out. And I'm just like, I'm wondering if it has something to do with this, where it's like when people show up on social media, like how can I practically apply this? So it's like if I'm going on there and I'm not, my stories say aren't getting a lot of response, and I'm like, oh, I'm not feeling the energy, and maybe it's like keeping me from wanting to post. Or if I go on being like, everyone's gonna love this, like, do you know what I'm saying? Like, how
I
can I
do.
take this energy to that platform?
Ooh, I love this question. You ask guys ask all the questions. That's what I get to respond to. So I do know, and I want you to, I'm going to reread this one sentence and then I'm going to answer your question. If your attractor field is putting that out. So number one, what are you putting out? Would be my first question to you when you're doing the task. You will draw on the same thing. Number two, this is like going to a prostitute. It can be an experience, but it's basically a sterile one. I'm doing it because I have to or I think I should, but it's basically not going anywhere. I'm doing it to be compliant. So now there are things that we have to do in life. I'm not saying don't do things you hate. I am saying you have control over your attitude, over the way that you experience the experience. So yes, I'm going to be bold and tell you what I did in my experiment so that you guys can experiment. I like to say human design, I just experiment and then I get really fired up because some shit works and some doesn't. So here's what I'd say to you about social media. This whole entire week, either choose not to go online unless you have to, because it's someone else's account. But if it is your account, show up, but only show up when you're in a wholesome, feel good energy. So in other words, you get yourself really like in a yummy like energy first and then go write your content or manage the account and experiment with it. Or the other obvious answer to that is don't do the things that you don't want to do anymore, because that's a lot of the programming that we all get conditioned into, especially with our creations. And that's a whole nother training, but creation energy and sexual energy, we always think it's for someone else. Like I have a lot of energy, I'll write the emails, I have a lot of energy, I'll manage the account, but is it what we genuinely want to do at the end of the day? Yes or no? Because if it's not, and we're doing it because we should, it's not true, pure creation energy, according to Gene Keys. It's more of a task manager more than it is I birthed this. This came through me. Does that make sense?
No,
Like,
it's a lot of creation.
Yes.
But then
Mhm.
sometimes I'm super in it, and then there's other times I'm just like, fuck.
Ooh, so can I ask you an awareness question? The times that you are like, F my life, are you usually in an empty state? Does it feel that way? If I gave you a pause to ask that question?
Empty state. I mean, I just think I need to get familiar with what that state is, but it's kind of like, oh, this is gonna take so much time.
Mhm.
Like yeah, it just feels like, oh, this is gonna take a lot of time to put this out there. And there was a
Yeah.
period of time where social media wasn't giving me, it was like really hiding my shit in the algorithm. But then it started giving it to me again. I'm like, oh hell yeah. And then I'm like, that like excitement kind of like, oh, people are actually gonna see this now. So there was like a lull for a while and people weren't seeing it. And it just felt like, okay, this doesn't feel like I'm getting like energy back for what I'm putting in.
Ooh,
But then
yeah.
there's times I do, but I just feel like it's this like feel like I'm in an abusive relationship with Instagram where it's like they're like, yeah, we're gonna give you like all kinds of interaction. Then they're like, sight, take it away for a little while. And then I'm like, ah, fuck. And so it's just like this back and forth that it's just like it's just kind of, and
Okay.
so it's hard to stay like excited when it's like, I never know what the algorithm's mood is going to be.
Okay, so you might not know that you're having this awareness. May I share with you what just is happening?
Sure.
So by the words, let's not get complicated with words, but when something is fertile, you're like, yes, I gave this to Instagram. I gave it to them. I gave them the seed. And then when people are watching me and they're paying attention to all the effort and they're giving back, that means it's growing. That means that it's fertile. It's growing. I put out,
Yeah.
they put in, it's fertile. It's growing. Now, the days that Instagram doesn't see me and I'm hidden, that doesn't feel very sterile. That feels like I gave and I gave and I gave and I gave, and nothing is coming back or coming back or coming back or coming back. Now I'm just like, F you, because I don't feel like it's growing. So
Yeah.
the way to get out of that pattern, is choose to put only your energy on things that you feel confident will give back to you. So if you're on Instagram only to get validation or to be seen, it's not going to grow. It won't be stable growth because the algorithm is out of your control. So we have to focus on what is in Chelsea's control. What is in your control is putting your energy, your vitality into those things that feed you back and nourish you. So if you choose to stay on Instagram, you're just going to need to have another outlet that nourishes you so that you grow even if Instagram doesn't grow. Because then when you meet, you're
You kind of
what's
have
making it
to,
fertile.
be the present, like, all businesses that have to be present in some way. But yeah, I see what you're saying.
Does that make sense? Answer your question.
No, I love
And then
that.
the next homework I'd give you guys, because tangibility is like my favorite part of any new information. To make this tangible, I absolutely would invite you guys to go read your gene key in this sphere. If you're going to create a business, if you're going to create a baby, if you're going to create the income or the clients, you just got to pull this frequency higher. That's all you got to do. So I'd go actually read that number for you, Chelsea. I don't know what that is, but all of you guys go read that at the Gene Keys. And then I can send Angel a PDF that's free for all of you guys as well. If you don't want to buy the book. Okay, so line 2. We're going to cruise through the other lines, but still give you the potency. So who has a line 2 in this group? You guys put it in the chat. Oops. Okay, so line 2, I can speak very intimate to because I have a line 2. And I'll just tell you from experience that this is a really interesting line. So lust, it says line 2 is about lust versus passion, feeling inadequate, versus feeling liberated. So line 2s, you're going to be the people that want to have sex to escape your suffering, period. This is unconscious to you. So from my own experiment, I tested this on. So I'm like, no way. No, I'm just really creative all the time. Like, I just love sex, like everybody, right? No, I actually realized the truth of what actually this information did in my entire romantic relationships. When I stopped using sex as a scapegoat to avoid how I was feeling and suffering, my entire relationships shifted. So if you have a line 2, I want you to start being curious about when you go to interact and engage with sex and ask yourself, am I trying to avoid how I feel? Because there is usually deep, deep sorrow or suffering locked up in this gene key. Again, this is unconscious, so this means our body is aware of it, although our mind is not. Line twos, the reason you don't always create the business or the money or the thing is because you feel deeply inadequate. So these are the people that no matter what you say to them, no matter how talented they may appear, they will constantly compare how they're not good enough. So people that have a line two do really well as well with getting mentors and coaches. It wasn't until Angel helped reflect back to me my light and my gifts, because I felt so inadequate that without support, I would have just stayed there. So line twos, I would say this for any line, you need support to get out of your learned behavior. So for what it's worth, it says that in lust versus passion, when you're in lust, you want someone to give you something. So it's worth saying, for the sake of the recording, any shadow is actually a take energy. Okay, so even back here on line one, if you're sterile, it's a take energy. You want something to make you feel alive. Line two, you're in lust. You want someone to give you something. Lust is give me, give me, give me, give me. Make me feel better, make me feel better, make me feel better. That's all the shadows are in the attraction spheres. Give me something or I'm going to take. Versus when you're aligned to and you're in passion, passion comes through you and up through you. Therefore, it is given, it's not taken. Do you see how that correlates? When you're in lust, you want to have sex because you want someone to give you something to numb. Versus when you're in passion, you're like, oh my gosh, I'm so exuberant from the inside out. I want to give and share with you. That's the difference. So it says that, of course, these are sexual frequencies, but the shadow frequencies aren't fulfilling, not in the long run. None of these shadow frequencies will actually heal the long run game. And this is what's fun. It says lust always brings you back to your basic feeling of inadequacy. So if you're in lust or constantly lusting after material gain or relationships or sexual fulfillment, you will always come back at the end of the day to the feeling of I'm not enough. In fact, it perpetuates that feeling. So the way to get out of that line twos, I want you to write down the question, what am I passionate about? Because passion is going to fill you up, lust will not. If you feel inadequate, rather than pushing it away, I want you to accept it. A shadow does not go away because we resist it. The shadow just needs more love. So when I'm like, cool, I haven't written my books because I feel really inadequate, because there's really good authors out there, I get to love that part of me that feels inadequate all the time. But as long as I stay in passion, my passion will override the inadequacy. So they work together. Does anyone have a line two that wants to be hot coach or hot seat coached with their gene key? And I can't see the chat, Angel, so will you let me know? Oh, you're muted.
Sorry, Carrie Payne has got a line two and her gene key is 56.
Oh, I love this. This is so, okay, cool. So you're 56.2, is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Oh, yes. You and I both, sister. Okay, really cool. So 56 is in its shadow frequency is distraction. So may I share with you what that means in your life, or do you have a specific question that you would like answered? Like, yeah, I'd actually like to know what you're working through.
Yes, I am working through I think honestly just feeling worthy enough of a home for myself and my family.
Yes. Okay, so you're creating
Yeah.
a new home, essentially, right?
Yes.
Okay. So the new home, we have to identify that's coming from passion, right? Like it's because you desire it, but it's not coming because it will make you feel XYZ.
Right. Yes. Like for my
Okay.
family. Yeah, my business, all of it.
I love that. So it's the other side of this. So you already nailed it. It's feeling like, do you feel like it's inadequate? Like it's, I'm not worthy, I'm not enough, or I'm not deserving?
Yes, I literally almost typed that, but then was like, no, I'm not gonna. Right? Because I'm not even worthy enough to type it. So
Yeah.
silly.
Oh, no, it's okay. This is what's so beautiful is that we all experience the same feelings. They're just very specific in the way they show up. So, and because I have 56.2 like you're going to love this, but your new mantra is I am worthy. I deserve it because I am it.
I love it.
Because I am it, right? So a new home is going to bring you whatever it brings you. But the reason that you're not feeling worthy, it's very interesting, but it keeps coming back to not even worthiness, it's feelings of inadequacy, it's not enoughness. It's like, I don't deserve this more than it's I'm not worthy. It's I don't deserve this.
Yeah.
So when relationships, can I also show you for all of those that are watching, this isn't just about a home. This is what you're creating in life, period. This will also show up in sex. For example, when you have sex with someone for line 2s, this may not apply just to Carrie, but anyone that's a line 2 will have sex because they need to give something away because they're not deserving to receive. So this is a lot about deserving energy in line 2s, and you need to know that you're worthy and deserving of your creations. And when you choose to look at when you are not always feeling that way, to process in the moment that I am worthy, to voice what I'm feeling. And then notice that your passion will help you override that. So rather than focus on I'm not deserving, you specifically need to focus on the passion of it already happening. Passion will override your inadequacy. That's why there's 4 words at the top of each page, because it will tell you what the solution is when the lower shadow shows up. Does that make sense, Carrie?
That makes so much sense to me. Like, unbelievably amount of sense.
Like, do you feel seen?
Yes.
Love it. So everybody, what's really cool too is that this is how we attract people into our lives. And you didn't ask this question, Carrie, but I'm going to give you this little golden nugget. For everyone listening, your gene key with this specific line is why people are attracted to you. So if you want to bring in more clients for business, if you want to bring in more material gain, you want to bring in more money, whatever it is that you're bringing in, the other half of this is literally the word attraction. So when something is an attractor, it's a receptor, it's a magnet, right? So people are really drawn to you, Carrie, because of your passion. People will say yes to your programs just to get a taste of your passion. Like people tell me all the time, you're so passionate. And I know this about myself, so I just leverage it. I'm like, cool, I need to be more passionate. More people want to hang out with me. They don't actually want the product, they just want the energy. Does that make sense? Or whatever it is. But you need to really leverage your amazing badass gifts here and realize your passion is what draws in. And line 1s for you, it's your fertility. Like that draws people in. Your ability to birth new realities, to birth new projects, to just be so inspired by life. These are also the things that draw in our friends, our best friends, our romantic relationships. And we don't actually know this, but this is the part of our charts that actually marriages are created from. So I wasn't going to go there, but this is also the part of you that is attracted to the other person because of their specific gene key and line. Does that make sense, you guys? Have I lost you?
No, I'm loving it. And I want to know if you can jump to Brian, who has a gene key of 46.
Oh, absolutely. So 46 is the shadow of seriousness, and it is the gift of ecstasy. So
way to go, Ryan.
Yeah, Ryan, ecstasy. So I'm going to give you a little, I'm going to give you a mantra for ecstasy because it's like you're a gateway drug, right? You just feel good all the time. So ecstasy is, I'm going to slow down because I want you to write this. And if you can't, I want you to re-listen to this, or Angel can write it in the chat. Ecstasy with gate 46 is not the subtraction of negative or lower emotions. Ecstasy is the accumulation of them all in full acceptance. So it is saying in ecstasy, it is okay to have sorrow and to be happy at the same time. In that concoction, there's ecstasy because I'm human and I feel it all. And there is sorrow and there is joy, and they're allowed to be felt at the same time. So ecstasy isn't, oh my gosh, I need to get rid of all of this bullshit. I need to get rid of this. No, ecstasy is, oh my gosh, I feel it all. So your ecstasy, your ability to feel so deeply is literally a delight to other humans. So your delight and that's actually the gift. Your delight, when people are around you, they're attracted to you because you feel like ecstasy or you feel like delight. You're a delightful human being to be around. When you're in your shadow, though, you're serious as hell. And people are like, oh, right? So if we're not attracting, we're repelling. So your shadow would also then be able to repel if it's not pulling in. Does that make sense?
Yes, absolutely. Makes total sense. Damn it.
Do you relate to it though?
Really.
Your phone's cutting out on me.
That's pretty. Was it cut out? But
Yeah, just a tad. Okay. Well,
I have a question, Brian, and it
Yes.
jumps back on, cool, but are there, with the relationships, are there line numbers that tend to attract to each other? Do
I
you know?
see. I'm going to answer no, just because I haven't had enough experience in the realm of like what repels and what attracts. As more, the more potent question is gene keys. The gene keys more than the lines. But if I'm being even really honest with my experiment awareness, if both people are aware, it's a hell yes. It's if one is like aware of the other person more than they're aware of themselves, obviously, and they're trying to save their partner to get there. It's like trying to force the orgasm. It doesn't work. And so what I would say is looking at the gene keys is way more important than the lines not agreeing. In fact, they're really fun when you look at the different lines. Like someone could be in lust and someone could be in, fertility. And that would make a beautiful cocktail, right? Because one is like, let's have I'm fertile, and the other's like, all right, well, I'm lustful. I want to have sex all the time. So no, they mix either way. They all blend beautifully in the 6 lines, but the gene keys in their shadow would be a way more challenging problem. For example, if Ryan is in seriousness and I'm over here in, let's say, gene key, I don't even know. I'll choose mine, 56. If I'm the wanderer who wants to go, wander and have a great time and he's really serious, do you see how that would create conflict? Because everything is so serious. You can't just go wander around, and then it would create tension, not attraction, because he's in his shadow of his gene key and I'm in my heightened state of my gene key. So gene keys. Great question. So what she's asking back here is this line. Do you see how angel specifically is 63? It's really, really important that you get the full picture of this because I'm giving you the lines tonight to spark your curiosity, to help you heal. That's what this is for, is to heal. But when you get the full story, it tells a whole nother story. Okay. We're going to go into line 3. Who's a line 3? And there's 6 lines. We're getting there. Is anyone a line 3 in here, Angel?
I don't know without scrolling back, but we'll see.
Okay.
Any line 3s that want to, now I gotta scroll down. I think someone is. Me, Amber. Amber is a line 3.
Ooh, I
Anyone else?
love this. So line 3s are really, really, I say this all the time. I'm just going to read it though. We'll just get to the point. A sexual entrepreneur, maybe? Question mark. So this is about being promiscuous. So remember, we all carry this wound inside of us, and this is how it comes through our sexuality. So the 3rd line just carries, it can feel like drama. So at the low frequency, this is about bust ups and F ups and a steady stream of disastrous relationships. So as a 3rd line, you have to really know that if I could sum up this whole page, it's that you're here to have experiences and variety. So when you're having experiences out of promiscuity, that is a different energy than having experiences in playfulness. And the difference is this frequency right here based on what you're feeling. So when you feel adventurous, you're going to feel playful. You're having an adventure. But when you feel like really melodramatic, it turns into this promiscuous energy. And again, none of these, if I haven't been clear, none of these words are bad or wrong or unwanted, because they've been playing out your whole entire life. So it's just awareness, okay? So here's the deal. Line 3s can feel like they have the hardest time in relationships because they always have one foot ready to run. It's like, I'm in, I'm out, I'm in, I'm out. And the out part of you just wants adventure. And you can feel like as a 3rd line that the relationship is restricting your adventure. It's restricting. So line 3s have a deep need for freedom. That's actually really important that you know that, because it will bring in people that are either helping you, and it also says this can play in either direction. Maybe you attract men or women who are promiscuous, who have commitment issues. So rather than promiscuous, think commitment issues. Okay. Like literally think about someone who's like, I'm here, but not really. I mean, I want to entertain it, but not really. I mean, it's constantly like this hot, cold energy. And that's not wrong. It's your genetics. So that tells me mom or dad showed you that behavior. That's why you have it. But in the high frequency, you are able to commit and in that commitment, experience life together, right? That is going to change your entire sexual world. Why? Because now committed relationships don't take from you, they add to your adventurous life. But a lot of people that have threes either think they're not meant to be in a relationship or they're meant to be in a lot of them, like a lot. Because again, they haven't realized that the melodrama or the dramatic side of them that's constantly in and out, hot and cold, is just feeding the part of them that obviously feels melodramatic, but it's also them feeling like they have a deep issue within themselves that something is not okay. So at the higher frequency, these are relationships that can be really playful, where sexuality is not taken so seriously. So in the high frequency, you're like, ooh, do you want to experiment with whipped cream? Do you want to experiment with honey? Do you want to experiment? So you're taking your variety and your need for experimentation and you're using it in an adventurous way versus, again, the opposite, which is I'm just not going to commit at all because I think that by committing, it takes away from my adventure. So I said that 5 times in different ways, but really to sum it up, you just really feel like commitment takes your adventures away or the variety, the need for experience. So does that relate to you, Amber? Do you have line 3? Do you feel any?
Um, kind of. I understand like the like curiosity of like wanting to experiment kind of thing, but I have noticed that sometimes if I'm not like feeling like a connection with whoever I'm with, and I've been like the
Yes.
type of person who jumps from one relationship to another, but they're normally like long, like 4 years at least, and then normally at that point I'm like, I'm out.
Yes. Isn't that so validating to know that about yourself?
Yeah.
Because whether, I mean, you literally just summed it up because everyone is going to view time differently. And for you, you're like, yeah, 3 years and 4 years, that's a really long time. And thank you for the experience. And I'm ready to go to the next. So
Yeah.
threes have a lot of hummingbird energy. They want to go from every flower to the next flower. And that's not to say commitment relationships or that you couldn't get married and only ever want one partner. I think for you, what I'm feeling without even meeting you is that you're a very playful person by nature. Do you play often? Like, do you feel
Yeah.
like childlike?
Um, when I'm comfortable with people, I do.
Yes, yes, I guess. So I
And
think
if
that's
I'm
gonna,
not comfortable, it will kind of like close me off that I don't want to be playful.
oh, yes, yes. So if you're creating anything in life, I would just encourage you to play in the energy of play. So if you're going to create a business, it needs to be from literally the foundation of play and adventure. So any business model or any creation or anything that you birth or create from your heart's desire needs to have variety. It needs to have adventure and it needs to be rooted in play. Those are your needs.
Okay.
So, and then obviously there's the gene key. So does that make
Can I,
sense? Yes.
yeah, can I ask a little bit about like what the 6 in that attraction thing would mean for me?
The what
'Cause
is
I'm a
it? You
6,
mean, is it
because I'm a
6.3?
6.3. Yeah.
Absolutely. Do you feel like you're in conflict with yourself often?
Yeah.
Okay, so Gene Key 6 is this is going to be big for you, I can tell. So Gene Key 6 is about the peacemaker. So you are going to keep the peace at all costs. So even if you should say something, you won't. Even if you need to speak your truth, you'd rather keep the peace. So you're someone who is not about conflict. You will avoid war, avoid conflict, avoid fighting at all costs. You need to know that about yourself because at some point, you silencing your needs to keep the peace of the relationship or the peace of whatever is going to dramatically alter the way you experience life, so much so that it will feel like you have a war happening within you. So it can feel
Yes.
like war.
Yeah, and that actually makes sense for like the 4-year relationship mark kind of thing is because I kept the peace and then it like builds up and then I'm like, done.
Oh, you're seeing the full picture. Okay, so I hope everyone's observing what's happening. So we're talking about the line first, so we can wrap our head around that. And then we shift to the gene key, which we just found out for her is the war. And the full picture goes like this. So if we go back to line 3, the full picture for Amber is that your relationships or your need to move on to the next, to the next, to the next is because you can no longer handle the war. But if you can learn to not silence your voice or your needs and be okay with making peace from within, not from without, you won't change the partnership. You'll just get really damn good. And if you do, that's fine. You'll just get even better and more affluent of how to make the peace happen from within, where now you're having adventures all the time, regardless of who's around. Where right now it sounds like the full storyline is I feel conflict, and the only way to keep the peace is to end the relationship. Therefore, it feels like it's drama, or it feels like I effed up, like this beautifully states in the third line. It feels like drama, but you do not, I want to be clear, you do not have emotional relationship drama. It feels that way, but it's stemming from the war that you feel within. It feels like if I don't choose me, I have to choose you. But in order to still love you and keep peace, I need to choose me. The relationship has to end. Does that feel true?
Yes, thank you so much.
Yeah, you're so welcome. So the tangibility of that is to go read about Gene Key 6, and your mantra, to keep it simple, your awareness piece is I am at peace with my needs and I speak them. I am at peace with my needs and I speak them. It's the silencing that's keeping you at war with yourself. You're not actually at conflict with yourself. You just feel like if you speak the needs, then it will cause war. So you have a belief that staying silent avoids confrontation.
Okay, thank you. You're so amazing to teach me all this about myself.
Yeah, no, you're amazing. Thank you. Okay, so line 4s. So how are we doing? We got 10 more minutes. You guys cool if we just stay together as a group collectively? Is that cool, Angel? Set up breakout rooms. Okay.
Yep, thank you.
Who has line 4? Does anyone?
Kaylee she is a 3-4.
Okay, I love this. So line 4s are one of my favorites just because they're people in my life. So line 4s, it says it's frigidity or romance. And then it also says distant or intimate. And Kaylee, I'll let you think of your picture, or I'm sorry, your question, but I'm going to read this. So when you come to the 4th line, you're coming into Narnia. So if you guys have ever watched Narnia, this is the best way to explain it. If you ever read those wonderful books by C.S. Lewis as a child, The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, they describe this magical inner world that is frozen in ice by the Wicked Queen. So this is how the 4th line shuts down at a low frequency. It freezes out. Your heart literally freezes. And when it freezes, you feel threatened. When you feel threatened, you become distant, and you literally push people out of your space, out of your circle, out of your aura. But it's also very adept at concealing the wound. So it can make you feel like it's your problem. It's your problem, not theirs. They seem fine. They don't appear wounded at all, but you can't feel any warmth there. So the 4th line is also so delicate that they can't let you see that. So they pretend themselves and others that they're fine. This is the I'm fine, everything's good, everything's okay syndrome, but really your heart is on lockdown. So like Narnia, this is a pattern that needs melting. So the 4th line responds to romance. They have to literally be gentle with themselves to bring it back to life. So it's not actually someone else's responsibility to bring that warmth to you. So a lot of 4th lines will actually expect their partner to romance them back to feeling like they want to be intimate. So I want you to think about sex literally. When someone is romancing you, you're like, oh yeah, I'll be intimate when you buy the flowers and do the things and all the whatever. This is actually a deeper need. So within your attraction sphere, Kaylee, and anyone else that has them, the healing is so important. The reason when you feel distant, instead of going into they're the problem, they seem like they're fine, what the hell, I just don't like them. When you go into distance or freezing, you just need to be gentle and bring warmth back to your own heart. It feels really important to tell you why this is happening though. So when you go frozen, it just means that someone has triggered something so unconscious within you that you don't even know why you're doing this. You just know that it's not safe. So it's like someone said something and immediately you're like, step me up back. But you don't actually know that you're triggered. That's what's interesting is you don't know. The key indicator is, am I feeling distant? And if I feel like there's no warmth for this person, just recognize it has nothing to do with them. It's that your cellular memory is being triggered at an unconscious level. So when that happens, when you come back to taking care of your own needs, this really does hit home to you have to reparent yourself. Fourth lines have to do that more for themselves than any other line. You have to take accountability for parenting yourself. And then when you do that, your sexuality will open at the same level that your heart is open. So if your heart doesn't feel safe, your legs won't be either. And that sounds really blunt, but it's the truth. When your heart is not safe, your legs are not going to open because your heart is not open. When you are frozen, it's on shutdown. It's you're not getting in and we are not having sex. Don't you dare try to take something from me right now. So if you have that line or you know someone in relationship, when they get distant with you to heal, know that it's not you. They literally don't know why they're distant. They just are. So you can probably help them heal by reparenting themselves. But Kaylee, do you have a question with yours? Or a question at all?
Oh, I have so freaking many questions, Bree.
Pick one. That's one.
I know. No, like I totally see all this. My question is like, so like that 3.4, like how does that influence? I mean, because I'm like just plain line 4, I can see so much there.
So much. So are you a gene? Is your gene key 3?
Yeah, so the one inside the attraction circle, right? It's
Correct.
3. Yeah, it's 3.
Oh, this is so fun. Okay, wow. I didn't know why I said the way. Okay, wow. I'm saying that because it makes sense. I was talking to you. I don't always explain that line that way. So your gene key 3 is called the eternal child. So your greatest gifts in this lifetime is your ability to see life through the eyes of a child as you get older. In fact, the older you get, the more and more you'll return back to that infancy, that innocence. I have cold chills, innocence, playfulness, youthfulness. I'm innocent. God's here, creator energy. I am whole. Everything is the eyes of a youth. And when you are in playfulness and in this beautiful energy of the eyes of a child, when a child doesn't feel safe, they don't just lock down. They literally remove themselves from a room or they cry and they have tantrums. So the full picture, if we take both pieces of information, is that if you had any other gene key, reparenting yourself would be high on the spectrum. But with gene key 3 and having this frigidity romance, you are going to need to treat yourself every single day as though you were 3 with that level of gentleness. Because when you don't, and you come from the shaming or the perspective of I'm a child, or I'm an adult, I should know better, all you're doing is adding to the frozen distance response that you already have in your genetics. You're used to shutting down and being on lockdown. You're used to your needs not getting met. You're used to those patterns. That's why it's a pattern. It's in your gene keys. Line 4 is just a learned behavior. So you can change the behavior. So in Narnia, you are switching from everything feels frozen to, oh, I get to warm that up through my own heartbeat, my own gentleness, my own reprogramming. So there is a lot to unpack here. It would probably make sense why you have a lot of questions, but I hope that tells you the most simple way is that as the eternal child, you are literally attracting people, places, things, resources into your life because of your ability to be so romantic. And Keely, you're one of the most romantic people I know. It's through your art, it's through your poetry, it's through your creations, it's through your desire to birth romance. You are romantic in everything you do. Just be aware that when you're not in romance, it's because your heart doesn't feel safe. So tell that 3-year-old you got her back. You got her back. It's the best thing I can tell you.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Whew, okay, so line 5.
Oh my gosh, Bree, do you need to take a breath?
I'm fired up, but if you guys are overwhelmed, we can pause. I'm good.
No, I just mean like I just want everybody to take a breath. Do you guys?
Yes.
I want to ask a question. You guys put in the chat, how many of you are brand new to Gene Keys? Like this is the first time you've ever heard about it. So put brand new if you are. And then let me know if you have somewhat exposure, some exposure, or just put some. And let me know if you've and let me know if you've done extensive, like So we have some new, I just want to see where we're at so that we kind of
Synthesize.
know how to use our last few minutes, because
Yes.
if it's new, it's kind of like,
Woo!
what it's, yeah. One of the things I want you to know is that this is so different for me than anything I've ever studied. And like, I studied therapy. I got a master's degree in clinical therapy. So I studied psychology and disorders and mental health for like intensely. But when I would hear of something like a personality test, you know how you dabble in stuff where you're just like, oh, that's interesting. And you read it and you think you know. This is so complicated. I've known Bree for several years and I've been hearing people talk about this. I've gone to different workshops. And I'm telling you, I'm as intrigued tonight as the first time I ever heard about it. Like it gets more intensified and revelatory. That's the right word.
Yes.
So if you're intrigued tonight, I want to encourage you to keep following up, because as you can see, it's such a unique revealing of a person. Like we just listened to Kaylee with a line 4, but because her gene key is this other one, like her experience is going to be different than anyone else who was a line 4 with a different gene key. And I just wanted to acknowledge that this is so worth it. Of anything, I've compared this to like psychological theories and so many programs and modalities. And what I see in this is that you can't study this and walk away a judgmental person anymore. The judgments that we carry about ourselves and other humans are all programming and conditioning. We guilt, we shame, we criticize, we want to fix and correct people. And it has us all living in darkness. When you look at this and you just even hypothesize, what if there's something to this gene keys? What if there's something to this human design? Then possibly every human being is divinely designed and engineered. Just hold that as a hypothesis in your mind for a moment. What if every human being is in their learned shadow traits as well as their gifts and their light? What if they are divinely designed, spiritually engineered beings? Then they deserve my respect, my honor, and my unconditional love. And let's see what happens when we operate like that in society, giving ourselves and others the unconditional love to be able to watch these designs unfold and watch people be able to live and experience in the fullness of their creation. Not to try to fix them out of their shadows, but if they're in their shadows, to be like, ooh, like, look at what's going on. Like, let's hear. Like, this is what working with Bree has really helped me to understand is I'm not trying to push or force or coerce or rush myself or anyone out of a shadow. I'm there to witness and observe it. It is serving a function and it is teaching us this side or this piece of the puzzle that fits right with this piece of the puzzle. It is so divine. And it just takes us out of this egoic programming where we have judged and shamed ourselves and not been able then to experience the fullness of who we are. So I just wanted to give you my proselytizing piece. You're welcome.
You're so great. I love you.
I love hearing you.
So I know that we're done at 8:15. Do you want me to end? Are you guys good though? Because I want to honor time. So if you guys are good, I'm for it, and we can keep it simple and short and sweet. Just want to make sure. Okay. So line 5s are the opposite in some ways with the line 4, because it literally says you cannot romanticize these people. They will not buy it. So this is a pattern that uses sexuality to maintain control. So when they're having sex, it feels like it's control. We all know this pattern from the movies. So entrapment is actually about oneself. So the 5th line gets trapped in its own web. So it uses sex as a means of avoidance. It's also very similar to line 2. If you remember, we talked about line 2s will avoid how they're feeling. The difference though with this is they call it manipulation because they feel entrapped and they manipulate to get out of it. So if they don't like what they're experiencing, they feel like they have to manipulate to get out of the entrapment or the restriction that they feel. So these are unconscious patterns. What I'll also say too is that fives, you naturally have a lot of power. So fives, you are the people that society will look to because you are naturally someone in a high authority, even if you don't put yourself there. That's really important. You know that with your creations, because you can leverage the knowing that you are here to give practical solutions. This can also show up as a pattern of self-abuse. So with the fifth line, you have to realize when you're doing it. It takes a lot for a fifth line to come out and be vulnerable. They often have invested in their self-image, but wow, it's refreshing when they do. For others that are in their high frequency, these are our sexual teachers and they are our healers. When their heart is open, we find sensuality is the most beautiful, it's the sweetest, it's the most alluring. These people open up other people's hearts through their deep love for both the physical and the emotional. So line fives, people are really, really attracted to you because of how sensual you are with all of your senses, the way that you experience it, the way that you, let me say this slower, the way that you describe an experience or a circumstance, even through the way that you talk, is very sensual. So people like can feel the cozy blanket as you're telling the story, and people can smell the apple crisp when it's baking just by you talking and communicating. So sensuality is why people are attracted to you. So you can actually leverage your ability to be sensual. That's what people are looking for. You're also very masterful. So masterful in this sense isn't necessarily mastery as much as it's your ability to lead large amounts and large masses of people. So there's not too much to keep going into other than the entrapment is self-created. So there's no cage around you. But when you feel like there's a cage around you or you feel like you're out of control, then you're going to go to sex because it will gain or give you a sense of control. So one of your deep needs is to feel like you are in control at all times, which is really important because at a soul level, it's not control for the sake of power. At a soul level, it's sake of power so that I can lead the people back to their healing, lead the people back to their process. So does anyone have a line 5 in our chat, Angel? Or does anyone, I guess I
Yeah,
should
I
say.
do.
Yeah. Does it
I do.
resonate?
So yeah, I'm laughing.
Do you have a question on your gene key in your line or just the line in general or a share if you want to share?
Let's share. Yeah, I've got my Gene Keys book out, so I've been looking up stuff in our charts from working with you, but just right there on that one, that you will go to sex for a sense of control. It's so fascinating.
Yes.
So fascinating to look at the depths of what is going on in a relationship, and it's just so much more than, oh my gosh. Let's just say I'm very controlling, apparently. I like to be in control every day or multiple times a day, just to stay in control. So we can move on. Thank you for sharing.
You are so welcome. I was going to tell you too, just to give you, I know you have your Gene Keys book, but it's the detective. And so in your high frequency, you're always investigating, you're always inquiring. You just did it with the group. What if? What's the hypothesis? Could it mean this? Could it mean that? So by your questions alone, you're a master. You're very masterful in your healing process. Okay, so line 6, the last of the numbers. Who has line 6? Will you put it in the chat for me if anyone does?
Doug, batter up. Step into
Batter
the
up.
batter box,
Okay.
Doug, brother.
Yes. Okay, so I love this. It says finally, what a melody. I know it's only 6 lines, but believe me, you all are gonna go be like, what did we just go through? Okay, so I feel like I'm running a gauntlet here. So the 6th line is always looking for perfection. So of course, they're going to be disappointed. We all have our sexual healing. This one is an odyssey. The 6th line often gets burned early on in its life, and then a part of it gives up. So they resign themselves to fate. This is as good as it gets. And they can stay there their whole lives, even if they move to new relationships. They carry this unconscious disappointment, which means that every new relationship, every sexual experience, or otherwise is doomed to disappointment. The 6th line has to wake up. They have to take their dreams again. It's not about hope. That's too, I don't know what I put there. It's too espresso. It's about knowing that life is perfect and that there is value in every step along the voyage. It's about perspective and gratitude. The sixth line needs to learn this, that life isn't a fairy tale, but it's rich in learning. So never stop being open to the possibilities that lie ahead. Don't make hope of it. Just stay open and let your natural optimism swell your aura. Anything is possible. Then the sixth line one day hits their own innocence and it's ecstatic. Then you realize you never needed anyone else to feel this. Sexual freedom is innocence. And I want to say that on tonight's call for everyone and let that really sink in before we go to Doug. Sexual freedom is innocence. So I'm not going to go into that. I'm going to let you look at your own belief patterns there. But when you realize that innocence and sexual creation go together, your whole world starts to shift. You start to question your gene key along with its nature. So if you have a line 6 partner, that would look like line 6 not wanting to have sex, because what's the point? I'm going to have sex, but it's going to be disappointing because it didn't happen how I wanted it to. Disappointment in all areas of life. So this isn't our like Eeyore energy, especially if you know Doug, he is anything but Eeyore energy. But the way this can show up is feeling resigned. So they're the people that no matter what you do, you literally can show up to their house with your gym clothes on and they're still not getting out of bed. They're literally resigned from life because of the deep disappointment in childhood that's unconscious to them. But when they wake up, they're like, oh my gosh, I'm innocent. My creations are innocent. My sexual energy is innocent. And it's more than innocence, it's ecstatic. And it's like probably the most dramatic of the pendulum. Because if you're in disappointment and resigned, you're not trying at all. You're like, forget life, screw life. But on the other side of the pendulum with line 6, it is the most ecstatic. It's like, oh my gosh, I want to hug everything. I mean, not really, but create everything. It's so alive. The way to get there, though, is not about hope, but about trust and faith. So this is like literally coming back to, well, what was life before I knew disappointment? That's actually the question. So Doug, do you have questions or ahas with yours?
Makes sense. Some of my
Yeah.
early relationships definitely make sense with it to me.
Yeah, yeah. And thank you for that awareness as well. It totally has everything to do with relationships. Like it's why it's red in the sequence back here. Anything that's red on this paper is our direct connection with others. So we're talking about a big block or a creative aspect. What's your gene key here?
36.
36. Okay, so 36 is you're one of the most compassionate people in the world. It's very similar to what I was talking to Ryan about with not wanting to eliminate our negative emotions. But I'm going to tell you just a little bit about 36 so that you can contemplate it. But 36 is about the storm. So in a storm, for what it sounds like, it can feel like the dark night of the soul. So when you're in the dark night of the soul, there's a lot of disappointment possibility there, right? It's a storm. Who knows if we're going to make it out, but why try kind of thing. But when you realize on the other side of the storm that the storm had a purpose and there's always sunshine and there's always going to be the next cycle, you actually get ecstatic about the roller coaster that you're on. And you come alive and notice that as humans we're innocent. So it's really beautiful. Did you have a question and if you don't, it's perfect.
Nothing that comes to mind right now.
No, that's perfect. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, so you guys kind of have a taste, a large ice cream scoop worth of kind of what the attraction sphere means. But again, it's sex, it's creation, it's attraction. It's why we're attracted to others. So the last part I'll say is that this is actually directly the sphere, why we're attracted to others. So if you look at this main screen, you'll notice that Angel's gene key, it says right here, 63.5. Every single person that is attracted to her is attracted to her ability to speak and inquire truth. It says it right there. Do you guys see those words under the arrow? That's where that information is coming from. So really contemplate that information. But I hope if anything, you guys know, if you'd like to, continue learning, I actually am going to share with you guys some information and then we'll let Angel wrap it up if that works for you guys. So I'm going to let Angel put it in the chat, but I do have a digital course for those that want to go into all of the information in a really digestible form. So the course that I have is Human Design and Gene Keys both, because you can't get the full picture with just studying one. and it has 175 modules, and none of them are longer than 20 minutes. So even tonight, you had like 3 lessons in one. But with that, it will cover all the core topics, and I'm actually doing that course for $1,500. If any of you guys are in the Yin on Fire group or here tonight, I'm so happy to give you guys a discount. And I'm going to have Angel include that in the email, and feel free to reach out to me if you have any questions on what we covered tonight or where you can inquire to learn more. But that's what I have for you.
Where can they email you to get it?
Yes, if you will email me, then I'm able to give you the discount off of that. So you'll want to email Marie 0143 at gmail.com.
Marie. So email her to find out more about what it is to look at the offering. Bree, you have put this together in training videos.
Yeah.
That just like we experienced tonight, where you break it down and explain it.
All of it.
Holy cow. I've seen just the simple handout that you did with affirmations like that too. So if they email you and even ask for the affirmations, will you send that to them for free?
I will, for free. Yeah,
everybody should email her and request that, because
Okay.
it has, for Gene Keys, it has statements for you to unlock your gift.
Yes.
Specific affirmations for your gift. So email her and ask for that, and ask to review her courses and see what they are. You're blowing my mind. Girl, I have read people's charts that have gone to therapy for decades. I'm telling you, because I know therapeutic models, that they don't touch this. A therapeutic model is just looking at you in the context of people and relationship in generals, and talking about attachment theory and birth order and all of these things.
Yep.
This information gets you to look at your puzzle pieces of you as an individual, and I love it so much. Thank you. I'm so grateful for everyone who joined tonight and those that shared. I love it. I love that we'll just be open and you're allowing yourself to take the hot seat and to be a part of all of our collective learning. Thank you so much. Anybody else want to ask her anything just in a minute, or say thanks to her? Feel free to unmute.
Hey, so I've been taking, I started taking Brianna's course a while ago. She was in Bali and we had a bunch of stuff happen, but I've done like, I think 6 years of therapy now, and I think I've learned more about myself since Yin on Fire and just coming into this whole arena than I have in thousands and thousands and millions of dollars. Maybe not millions, but a lot of money.
Hell yeah.
Ryan, thank
Great.
you.
Yeah, me and Bree have connected, and it's been great. She's awesome. It's been really cool. So that's all I got. Thanks.
Thank you.
So appreciated. Thank you all for being here. And this recording will be available coming up on our Patreon link. And next week we have Crystal, who's here, and I'm going to make sure that I look at the right thing. Next week is Crystal Perry. I just want you to know she's an evidence-based psychic medium and Reiki master. So I hope that you guys will all come back next week, same time, same link, and visit with her. She was one of our great presenters at Yin on Fire. We're so excited to continue this education series. Thank you all for being here tonight.
Thank you, Angel.
Thank you, Bree.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Love you.